Hey guys! Can you imagine what would happen if oxygen ceased to exist for just 5 seconds? That would be enough to cause utter chaos across the entire planet. In this video, we're going to explore the possible consequences of this hypothesis. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Immediate collapse of aerobic living beings. If oxygen ceased to exist for just 5 seconds, that would be enough to cause total chaos across the planet. The consequences for aerobic beings, that is, those who need oxygen to survive, would be immediate and catastrophic. All aerobic life forms, including animals and plants, depend on oxygen for aerobic cellular respiration, a process that converts nutrients into usable energy for cells. Without oxygen, cells cannot produce enough energy to survive and begin to die rapidly. Humans, for example, would start to lose consciousness after just a few seconds without oxygen, as the brain needs oxygen to function properly. Without enough oxygen, brain cells begin to die within minutes, leading to permanent damage or even death. In addition, aerobic beings also need oxygen to keep their cardiovascular system working properly. Lack of oxygen can lead to a drop in blood pressure and serious heart problems. Another consequence of a lack of oxygen would be hypoxia, a condition where the cells in the body do not receive enough oxygen. Hypoxia can lead to brain damage, heart problems, and even death. Some aerobic beings, such as bacteria, fungi, and insects, have the ability to survive in environments with low levels of oxygen, but even these organisms can be affected by a lack of oxygen for as short a period as 5 seconds. In summary, if oxygen ceased to exist for just 5 seconds, the consequences for aerobic beings would be immediate and catastrophic, leading to death in a matter of minutes. Life on Earth depends on a delicate balance of factors, including the oxygen in our atmosphere. Fires and explosions. If oxygen ceased to exist for just 5 seconds, it would have a big impact on fires and explosions. This is because oxygen is needed for combustion, a chemical process that releases energy and creates fire. Without oxygen, combustion cannot occur and fires would be extinguished. In the case of fires that are burning indoors or low in oxygen, they may continue to burn for a few seconds, but without the continuous supply of oxygen, the fire would soon die out. Even in open-area fires, the lack of oxygen would prevent the fire from spreading quickly and burning intensely. Likewise, explosions also require oxygen to occur. Explosions are an intense form of combustion that releases a large amount of energy in a short period of time. Without oxygen, explosions cannot occur. However, it is important to point out that not all explosions are caused by combustion. Explosions can also be caused by other chemical reactions, pressure, vaporization, among others. In these cases, the lack of oxygen would not be a determining factor in the occurrence of explosions. In summary, if oxygen ceased to exist for just 5 seconds, it would have a significant impact on fires and explosions, as both require oxygen to occur. Without oxygen, combustion cannot take place and fires and explosions would be extinguished. However, it is important to remember that not all explosions are caused by combustion and that other factors can contribute to their occurrence. Health issues. Without oxygen, the cells in the human body would not be able to produce enough energy to maintain their vital functions. Tissues would start to die quickly, and this would affect the entire body. Immediate effects of lack of oxygen include loss of consciousness, seizures, and even death. Furthermore, lack of oxygen can also lead to permanent brain damage, as the brain is extremely sensitive to lack of oxygen. Other long-term effects of lack of oxygen include damage to the lungs, heart, and other vital organs. Climate change. If oxygen ceased to exist in the Earth's atmosphere, climate change would be dramatic and devastating. Oxygen is a critical component of the atmosphere, essential for sustaining life on Earth and influencing the climate. One of the main consequences of the lack of oxygen would be the mass extinction of aerobic organisms, such as animals and plants, which depend on oxygen for breathing. This would have a ripple effect on the food chain and ecosystems, with potentially serious implications for biodiversity and the survival of many species. Furthermore, the lack of oxygen would also have a significant impact on biogeochemical cycles such as the carbon and nitrogen cycle. Oxygen is needed for the bacteria that play critical roles in these cycles to breathe, and its absence would affect the ability of these ecosystems to sequester carbon and regulate the global climate. A lack of oxygen could also lead to significant changes in local and global climate. For example, the absence of oxygen could lead to changes in the circulation of winds and ocean currents, altering the distribution of heat and moisture and affecting weather patterns around the world. In short, if oxygen ceased to exist in the Earth's atmosphere, climate change would be dramatic and devastating, with significant impacts on biodiversity, biogeochemical cycles, and the global climate. Depletion of the ozone layer. If oxygen ceased to exist in the Earth's atmosphere, the ozone layer would be seriously affected. The ozone layer is formed from oxygen molecules, O2, that are broken down by ultraviolet, UV, radiation from the sun and recombine into ozone molecules, O3. The ozone layer is important because it protects the Earth from harmful UV radiation, which can cause skin cancer, damage the immune system, and harm the environment. Without oxygen in the atmosphere, the formation of the ozone layer would stop and the ozone layer would be rapidly destroyed. This is because there would be no more oxygen available for the formation of ozone molecules. The lack of ozone layer would result in higher levels of UV radiation reaching the Earth's surface, which could lead to an increase in the incidence of skin cancer, cataracts, damage to plants and marine life, and other consequences for the environment. Human and ecosystem health. Changes in Earth's magnetic field. Oxygen is a major component of the ionosphere, an upper layer of the atmosphere that helps protect Earth from charged particles in the solar wind. Without oxygen, the ionosphere would be affected, which could affect the Earth's magnetic field. Communication issues. The lack of oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere would not have a direct impact on wireless communication such as Wi-Fi signal or cell phone signal. These signals are transmitted by electromagnetic waves, which are independent of the composition of the atmosphere. However, the lack of oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere can have indirect impacts on wireless communication, such as electromagnetic interference due to stronger solar storms, which can be exacerbated by the lack of ozone layer. The ozone layer helps absorb and dissipate energy from the solar winds that interact with Earth's magnetosphere. Without the ozone layer, energy from solar winds can hit the Earth's surface harder, which can affect the quality and reliability of wireless communications. Furthermore, the lack of oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere can also lead to changes in the ionosphere, which is a layer of the atmosphere that reflects radio signals back to Earth. This can affect the propagation of radio signals and other forms of communication that rely on the ionosphere to function properly. In summary, although the lack of oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere does not directly affect wireless communication, it can have indirect impacts, such as electromagnetic interference due to stronger solar storms and changes in the ionosphere. Damage to buildings and structures. If oxygen ceased to exist in the atmosphere, it would have a major impact on buildings and buildings. Most modern structures are built with materials that require oxygen to maintain their integrity and strength. For example, concrete, which is one of the most widely used building materials, is a mixture of cement, sand, water, and air. Air contains about 20% oxygen, which is essential for cement to harden. Without oxygen, cement would not be able to set, which could lead to the collapse of many structures. In addition, many building materials, such as wood and plastic, are also susceptible to combustion when exposed to high temperatures, which are generated by the presence of oxygen. Without oxygen, these materials would not burn and could deteriorate more quickly. In addition, the lack of oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere could also affect structures that require ventilation and air conditioning systems to maintain air quality and internal temperature. Without oxygen, these systems would not be able to provide adequate fresh, conditioned air, which could make buildings unhealthy and uncomfortable for occupants. In summary, the lack of oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere would have a significant impact on buildings and buildings, affecting the strength and integrity of building materials and rendering ventilation and air conditioning systems useless. Oceans and rivers would cease to exist. If the oxygen molecule suddenly ceased to exist, it would have a significant impact on water worldwide, as oxygen is an essential component for the composition of water. Water is made up of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, and without oxygen, water would simply not exist. Also, water is a universal solvent, which means that many substances dissolve in it. Without oxygen, water's ability to dissolve substances would be affected, which could have significant effects on many biological and chemical processes. In addition, the lack of oxygen would also affect the water's ability to support aquatic life, as dissolved oxygen in water is essential for the respiration of aquatic organisms. Without oxygen, aquatic life would quickly become extinct in all aquatic ecosystems, including rivers, lakes, and oceans. In summary, if the oxygen molecule suddenly ceased to exist, water simply would not exist, and all biological and chemical processes that depend on water would be affected. Aquatic life would rapidly become extinct worldwide, causing a cascading collapse of all aquatic ecosystems. Fortunately, it is impossible for oxygen to cease to exist for just 5 seconds, as the sudden disappearance of oxygen would have very serious and lasting consequences. And so we come to the end of our exploration of what would happen if oxygen ceased to exist for just 5 seconds. We hope this has been interesting and that it has become clear that life on Earth depends on a delicate balance of factors, including the oxygen in our atmosphere. Subscribe and share the video. To the next.